Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power Season 3 wrapped filming about a week ago, and there's now speculation that it might not show up. The actual show might not premiere on Prime Video until 2027, over a year from now. Roll this up over at phantompulse.com. You can find the link in the description below. So as I said on Instagram, Prime Video shared last week that The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power wrap production on December 10th, and there is now speculation that it might not show up until 2027. That speculation primarily coming from Forbes' Paul Tassi. He wrote this in an article saying, "I don't know what the future holds for Rings of Power, but we won't find out until 2027 at the earliest, most likely." As for why he believes it will be 2027, he pointed to the release calendar for the show's previous seasons and episodes. Specifically, he pointed to when Season 2 wrapped and when it eventually aired. Season 2 wrapped production in June 2023, but did not premiere on Amazon until over a year later in August 2024. Given this, Tassi extrapolated that since Season 3 just ended production this month, it would be another 14 months until it actually aired. That would put the premiere in February 2027. So that is what the speculation is there. Another 14 months based on what we saw from when Season 2 wrapped and to when Season 2 premiered. Obviously, there's a lot of different factors that go into that. That could elongate that time frame, so it might even be longer, maybe later in 2027 than February, or maybe shorten it. I think a lot of it probably depends on the post-production work that they are going to be doing and whether or not they have to do reshoots, etc., to clean things up like we see with movies, etc. As for what to expect for Season 3, it looks like it's going to be more of the same, more of Prime Video and the people working on this project trying to rewrite what Tolkien wrote in the Silmarillion. We got a plot synopsis from the Hollywood Reporter back in February of this year. They said that they shared the log line for the show saying, jumping forward several years from the events of Season 2, Season 3 takes place at the height of the War of the Elves, and Sauron, as the Dark Lord, seeks to craft the One Ring that will give him the edge he needs to win the war and conquer all Middle-earth at last. I didn't watch the second season, but from what I understand, there's a lot of things that took place after Sauron had already crafted the ring that take place in Season 2. So like I said, completely rewriting what Tolkien wrote, changing up the timeline, just basically making their own fan fiction and trying to make that be the real thing, which it clearly isn't. I remember they were always saying we were writing the book that Tolkien never wrote, yet Tolkien did write the Silmarillion. It wasn't published when he was alive. His son, Christopher, published it, but he did indeed write it. In fact, he wrote most of it before he even published The Lord of the Rings. Anyways, we also have some new cast members joining the Season 3 of the show. Jamie Campbell Bower, Eddie Marsan, Andrew Richardson, Zubin Varla, and Adam Young. However, it was not revealed which characters they will play. Amazon did share that Richardson and Bower will be series regulars, while Marsan, Varla, and Young play recurring characters. I think some of the biggest emphasis is that Jamie Campbell Bower will likely be playing Galadriel's husband, Celeborn. And that is primarily coming from Fellowship of Fans. In September, just a couple of months ago, Fellowship of Fans claimed that the show will depict Sauron distributing the Rings of Power. A couple of months later, it claimed the show will depict Elrond and Gil-galad traveling to Numenor to seek the assistance of Pharazôn and the Númenóreans in their fight against Sauron. Additionally, the outlet claims the main battles this season will happen in Numenor between the Kingsmen and Faithful compared to Middle-earth. There will still be fighting in Middle-earth, but there will be a bigger focus on the Faithful versus Kingsmen. So just more, like I said, of them rewriting what Tolkien actually wrote. If we look at the Silmarillion, Tolkien makes it clear that it is the Númenóreans, and specifically the elf friends, that lend their aid to Gil-galad against Sauron and his forces. In all this, the elf friends had small part. They alone came now ever to the north in the land of Gil-galad, keeping their friendship with the elves and lending them aid against Sauron, and their haven was Pelargir, I'm probably mispronouncing it, above the mouths of Anduin the Great. Furthermore, the fighting between Sauron and the Númenóreans occurred in Middle-earth and not in Numenor. Sauron was ever guileful, and it is said that among those whom he ensnared with the 9 rings, 3 were great lords of Númenorian race. And when the Ulari arose, that were the ring race, his servants, and the strength of his terror and mastery over men had grown exceedingly great, he began to assail the strong places of the Númenorians upon the shores of the sea. As for any conflict between the faithful and Ar-Pharazôn's forces, Tolkien detailed that it began after Pharazôn brought Sauron to Numenor as a hostage. However, Sauron was able to twist his mind, and slowly a change came over the land twist Pharazôn's mind, and the hearts of the elf friends were sorely troubled, and many fell away out of fear. And although those that remained still called themselves the faithful, their enemies named them rebels. Eventually, Sauron convinced Pharazôn to openly worship Melkor and began performing human sacrifices, with many of the faithful being the ones to be murdered. Thereafter, the fire and smoke went up without ceasing, for the power of Sauron daily increased. And in that temple, with spilling of blood and torment and great wickedness, men made sacrifice to Melkor that he should release them from death. And most often from among the faithful they chose their victims, yet never openly on the charge that they would not worship Melkor, the giver of freedom. Rather was cause sought against them that they hated the king and were his rebels, or that they plotted against their kin, devising lies and poisons. These charges were for the most part false, yet those were bitter days, and hate brings forth hate. Sauron would go on to convince them to become raiders who enslaved the men of Middle-earth, as well, the Númenóreans. For with the aid and counsel of Sauron, they multiplied their possessions, and they devised engines, and they built even ever greater ships. And they sailed now with power and armory to Middle-earth, and they came no longer as bringers of gifts, nor even as rulers, but as fierce men of war. And they hunted the men of Middle-earth, and took their goods, and enslaved them. And many they slew cruelly upon their altars. So there were no real battles on Númenor. It was tyrannical persecution by Pharazôn and Sauron against the faithful. Additionally, Gil-galad and Elrond do not visit the island, but are instead offered aid in their battle against Sauron by the Númenóreans from the port of Pelargir. It really is no real reason to watch this show at this point. I did watch the first season. I kind of slogged through it. I was kind of disgusted at how they were subverting and perverting Tolkien's vision and what he had written in the Silmarillion, and they really haven't course corrected at all whatsoever. They just kind of continued down that path. So if you're thinking of maybe watching the show, don't. Read the books instead. Read the Silmarillion, read the Lord of the Rings, read the Hobbit, read instead of watching this abomination of a show that they are still making. The show should be scrapped, should be shut down. Obviously, they've blown through a bunch of money. They've basically squandered a massive opportunity, and we are unlikely to see an adaptation of the Second Age anytime soon because of what they have done in this show. And it's just unfortunate because that material deserves respect. It deserves a proper adaptation, and Amazon Prime Video, the people working on this project, just did not do that. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below.